Hello, and welcome to Dirty Hands, Dirty Mouth, episode 3, Horny and Grass Fed.
Good evening, bigots. This is Juicy Bigot, and I am your dirty hand.
And I am your Dirty Mouth.
And I'm your third wheel boomer.
And I'm the fellow with the horny and grass-fed critters.
So, we have here Casper the Medic, who's kind of someone who's kind of been lurking around the community, who's a pretty interesting guy. So, he is from South Africa. He's a South African, and he was I believe, a field medic in the South African military. So that's pretty cool. I know we've got a lot of vets around here, and he raises pretty much everything. So we're gonna start by asking him about goats, because he's got a lot of them. So with goats, what do you say the major breeds? Like, what kind of breeds do you deal with?
The two breeds that I have right now are Bordeaux's. So they are a South African breed of goat. And I have crossed them with a Nubian, which is a North African breed of goat, because they are hardy, they're cold resistant, they're really good at converting anything they eat into meat. And the particular breed I have got are for meat. They are not milking goats. Milking goats require way more work than I'm ready to put into the farm just yet. And a milking station and stalls, and yeah, it's a level of work above I'm not ready for.
So you're just sticking to meat right now, then?
Yep, just supply me good, clean red meat that grows within a season, and I can put 8 goats in the equivalent land that I can put 1 cow in. So
goats are kind of infamous for just being like lawnmowers. They just eat grass like a guy in a 400-pound man in a buffet, right? So do you just feed them straight up grass, or what's the kind of feed like for these guys?
Actually, the basic concept behind goats is wrong. They're not grazers, they're browsers. They eat grass as a secondary. They prefer shrubbery and deciduous and coniferous and anything that grows up in bush or tree form. They prefer that over grass. So yes, they do eat grass, but that's generally only in the winter after they've fattened up in the summer off browsing.
So then that's why goats would prefer the mountains or the hills.
Yeah, forested areas. I'm basically using them for underbrush clearing and to keep the mozzies down. I let them go wherever they want, and they eat everything off to 6 foot above the ground.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know how many people in this community have ever had goat meat. It's actually the most widely consumed red meat in the world, because you have to account for China and India. Because India, you have a lot of Hindus who can't eat beef. But it's quite a lean red meat. It has a bit of a tang to it, but it's good once you get used to it. If you go to, say, like an East Indian place, you almost guaranteed you'll find goat on the menu, and you could have something. And if you go to like a halal butcher, if you live in a big city, almost another guarantee that they'll have goat. So that's probably your best place to find it, unless you want to venture out into the countryside and find a farmer who's raising them, like Casper here.
Yeah. Goats, the closest I can equate it to is white-tailed deer from a cedar swamp. It's got a strong flavor to it, as opposed to your white-tailed deer from, say, a farmland with corn or grain or something like that. It's distinct. You are correct, and it is absolutely delicious, and it cooks up really well, and it's got a high protein content. It's phenomenal stuff. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Goat's milk is a product that's actually been around for a while, but it's kind of tough to find these days. I've had it before myself, and it actually tastes like goat meat. It's very similar in flavor. It's an acquired taste for sure. I don't know how many people here have tried goat's milk before, but it's different. Have any of you guys tried goat's milk before?
Oh
I
yeah.
actually have a dairy allergy that I've had all my life, and when I was a kid, my mother resorted to feeding me goat's milk because for some reason I'm allergic to cow milk, but not goat milk and goat cheese. So I eat a lot of goat cheese. I do not drink goat's milk though because I don't drink any milk.
So the reasoning on that is the different proteins in the milk. Goat's milk has a very different form of protein in it than cow's milk does. So it dissolves in the body differently, it reacts with your immune system differently, and there's a huge difference between drinking raw milk, which is fresh from the animal and run through a filter, versus the processed stuff you can purchase in the store. Um, and yes, the goats I have will produce milk, but they'll give you about a cup a day per goat. So as opposed to a liter a day per goat for a milking goat, 4 cups a day kind of thing. So it's quite a difference, and it is good. I love goat's milk as well. Fresh, just chilled, it is phenomenal.
So,
It's a bit thicker, isn't it?
Casper's been kind enough to give us just a ton of pictures of all the animals and the scenery on his farm. So I'm going to pull up a couple of pictures of goats here just to give you guys an idea of what he's working with.
Yeah, you're welcome to use the one with the back of my kids. It's all good.
So here we have just a couple of goats just resting in some hay, and they're pretty damn cute, I have to admit. When I think goats, I don't think of that.
They were 2 days old at that point. So just running around. They'd had their first milk and first poops, and they're starting to get bouncy. Yeah.
And then we have goats here, a little older, and then they're out and about in the clover.
Yeah. That was about 10 weeks later. Yeah, it was still really dry. As you can see, I've got patchy areas there. So it's the second year growth where it's tall and first year growth where it's short. Yeah. And the brown one in the front is a year old. The white and brown with the pink collar next to the little black baby, and the white baby in the back, that one is Sabrina, and she is 3 years old. And the tail end disappearing on the right side of the screen, and the 2 white-tailed black spot ones on the right, those are her babies, and she is 4 years old. And the brown baby is Lily's, the one on the right's her baby.
Now here we have an actual goat carcass. This is like, how old is a goat when you slaughter it?
I think that was a sheep. That was a sheep carcass. I got a sheep from another farmer that was a 5-year-old ewe that had gone dry. She wouldn't produce anymore. Picked her up for $50. $50 for all that meat. I picked up about 100 pounds of meat out of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Do you dry age it at all, or it's more like
no?
Okay.
I don't age any of my meat. I kill, bleed, gut, skin, process within hours. It goes into a fridge, maybe for 24 hours, if I haven't got enough time to finish it in the day, and then the next day it's packaged and frozen. I don't age any meat at all. I'm not a big fan of that aged flavoring meat, especially when it's hot. It's so difficult to age meat correctly without a temperature-controlled fridge or freezer or a proper humidity-controlled environment. If you get it wrong, then you spoil the meat.
Right. I guess we'll move on then to the next topic, and Juicy's just going to run wild with
I was hoping to. I was waiting to turn just to ask him a quick question.
Oh,
here.
go for it, Boomer.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute too. I was hacking, the doobies and shit. When you say you like the milk from goat, is there anything in particular that you would feed the goat to change the milk to the way you like it? Because out here, like my uncle, I pick up a lot of goats for him, but they'll eat, like you said, everything, mostly trees, mostly fruit cut-offs, would like go pick up all the apples and stuff like that. We give them but it depends on the week, the milk changes. And sometimes it's really bitter, so we know not to give it any ferns or carnivorous. But is there anything to make it more sweeter in general?
Clover.
Just clover, hey, that's easy.
You should try raw, fresh farm milk from cows that have been into the fresh clover. It is stunningly good, and it does the same thing for the goats.
Yeah, there's a farm just about 20 minutes away from here, and they harvest on strawberries, and that's some of the best meat. I love it. I absolutely love that meat, but they're just little tiny wild strawberries. You can go and pick them yourself, but I wouldn't suggest it because it's all cow shit. But
Just don't lick the brown ones.
just don't lick the brown ones. That's right.
You guys have me all excited. That sounds nice.
What, brown strawberries? Naturally chocolate covered?
Milk that's been infused with strawberries.
Oh, it's a fruit milk is amazing. You do get the sugars and the flavors coming through. You really do.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next topic, and Juicy's going to run wild with this one. So, Casper, you grow a lot of vegetables as well. You mentioned that, like potatoes, carrots, beets, a bunch of different other veggies, and then you actually have a bunch of different types of berries. You got some apple trees, some pear trees. So, Juicy, I'm going to hand this one over to you because I'm sure you're just ready to go wild.
I don't know where to start. I guess we were talking yesterday and getting to know you. You were saying you don't shop at grocery stores anymore, so you primarily grow everything for your family.
As much as I can, yes. I haven't bought potatoes in 5 years, or pumpkins in 6, and tomatoes, well, we had to buy last year a little bit, but generally I've got enough frozen that I don't have to do that either. And yeah, we pay very, very little in the way of grocery shopping. For a family of 4, it's about $150 a month.
When you guys do your potatoes for the year, for a family of 4, how many mounds of potatoes do you figure you grow?
I grew 2 mounds, 40 feet long, 4 feet wide, plant on each side, one a foot across, a foot across, a foot across, and then just kept heaping it. And I got 250 pounds of potatoes out of that.
Oh, well, that's not bad. So you don't even count anymore. You just have a space that you lay out for potatoes and just start hucking them in.
Pretty much, yeah.
50
I have a row with manure on the bottom with soil over it, and then I add more soil, and they stick their roots down into the poo and make food for me. It's wonderful.
And then how do you preserve them for the year? Do you have like a sand cellar that you put them in, sand?
Nope. I take them out, I lay them on horse blankets, and I let them dry for a day or 2 without direct sunlight, preferably in the garage, nice and dark, or in a shed, nice and dark. And once they're dry, I brush off most of the sand. I put them in paper sacks, and I stash them in a cold cellar.
So we've got a picture of the potatoes up. I'm going to put a picture of the sweet potatoes up just so people can see.
Yeah. It's just a row with a tractor, dug, turned the soil over, and then I throw poo underneath that, manure from the chickens and the ducks and the goats, and then I throw them in the hole, and then I put soil over them and let them do their thing. The reasoning for the plastic with the sweet potatoes is the sweet potatoes like warmer soil, much warmer. And the black plastic helps do that. It helps promote the root growth, and the root growth is where you get your sweet potatoes in, the long tubers. From that particular row, I got 60 pounds of potatoes this year. And I put in maybe 10 pounds of potatoes.
Amazing. I have not grown sweet potatoes. I wasn't sure about it. It's definitely something I'd like to do because my kids all like sweet potatoes.
Loose soil, held up as high as you can get it, nice and hilly. We actually put a drip irrigation thing underneath the plastic. It's because we just poked holes. So we put that plastic there, we put the drip irrigation down, we sealed it all in. But sweet potatoes, you start differently. You start them roundabout. Now you cut the sweet potato in half. You put 3 whatchamacallums in, and toothpicks in them, and you stick about a third of that potato in water in a jar, and then it starts shooting eyes and little shoots. And you let those shoots get about 6 to 8 inches long and get about 8 to 10 leaves on them. And then you very gently break those shoots off. You dip them in a rooting medium, and you let the shoots grow roots. And once the shoots have grown roots and grown about another 6 inches long, you go out to your black plastic, poke a hole in it, open the hole, stick your roots in, close it up, and walk away.
Oh, wow. It sounds like a lot less digging than potatoes, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Digging them up, on the other hand, that's just as much as digging up potatoes.
I don't have a tractor, so all of my potatoes are all manually dug with a goon spoon.
What the hell is a goon spoon?
Shovel.
Okay, a goon spoon. Okay, now I'm good. A pointy shovel or a flat shovel?
Whatever shovel I can get my hands on.
Okay, that's good. Those were radishes. Those were all radishes.
Yeah, Juicy worked in the trade, so she's pretty well broken in. Has a dirtier mouth than most, so fits right in. Good. Oh yeah, this is the pick. You said it's radishes there in the dirt.
In the middle is radishes, and on the right are my pumpkin plants. And again, it's just manure on the bottom with dirt over it, about 6 inches of dirt. And this year I will have direct drip irrigation down every single one of these rows.
What do you use that many radishes for, sir?
Eating. They are very good in nutrients and vitamins and things, and they pickle very nicely.
Pickled a radish, but I grew radishes last year and ended up with probably 20 pounds of radishes, and my kids won't eat them. My old man won't eat them. I ate as many as I could. I gave some to the neighbors. I don't know that I'll ever grow radishes again because I don't know what to do with them.
You can slice them really finely, and then you can dehydrate them and powder them and sneakily add them into everything you cook.
Okay, sounds good.
It's vitamins and minerals.
The thing about radishes is they take about 35 days from start to finish. So they grow really fast. What I did with the ones that we actually had more than I actually pulled out, and what I did is I let them go to seed because they have really, really big, long flowers, like big stalks with lots of little flowers, and the bees love them.
Yes, they do.
That's what I did with the rest of the radishes that I never pulled out of the ground. I just let them.
And then we harvested the seeds, so now I don't have to buy radish seeds this year.
So the standard use case in a restaurant for a radish is just to take a mandolin, slice them paper thin, and then throw them in a salad, and they're not too bad that way. I know, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, we did pickle radishes at work, pickled radishes in like a rice wine vinegar pickling solution.
Very good.
They're not bad, but they have a foul aroma. Just really, really strong. I've heard of people braising radishes before and like doing a sous vide radish as well. I don't know what that tastes like, but I've seen it done. I honestly, I don't know what to do with radishes either, other than just slice them really thin, put them on a mandolin, because like the flavor is really strong. You have to either have a taste for it or you have to counteract it with something.
Well, I must be weird then, because I like eating pickled radishes like pickled onions. It's just good food.
Yeah, any farmer I talk to who grows radishes just eats them raw. Like I bought produce from one farmer. He just pulled them out of the ground and started eating them like apples, and I'm just looking at them like, okay, that's a little weird.
Hey, when you're working with ducks and chickens and things splash in your mouth that shouldn't splash in your mouth, radishes are good.
I don't mind them. It's convincing the 5-year-old that he should eat them. So growing a whole row was probably too much for us.
As I said, dehydrate them, powder them, and sneakily add them to everything you cook.
I think a lot of part of it is the recipe. If you don't have the right recipe, it's not very good. And sometimes it's a learning curve trying to get that right recipe, because if you don't like the taste to begin with, how are you supposed to know how to change the recipe to what you like? So you just trial and error, I guess.
Well, that goes for pretty much every ingredient. If you find a proper way to cook it, I mean, most people will find it palatable. Maybe another idea for a radish or a bunch of them is just to throw them in a blender with maybe like some honey or some maple syrup and a little bit, I don't know, like a white wine vinegar, and make a vinaigrette. And then of course, you've got to get some oil in there to make a vinaigrette. But that's probably nice because you get some sharpness from the radishes. I should try that.
That sounds absolutely spectacular, actually.
And you were saying trial and error, like gardening itself is all a trial and error process. You'll constantly every year be changing up and doing a little bit different to improve what you did last year.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you've got potatoes. It's got sweet potatoes. Do you guys grow peas, snap peas? You said
peas, beans. Yeah, peas and beans. And we do those. I have rows of page wire fence that I put down each row as soon as they come up, and I just let them vine on that. At the end of the season, I just pull the page wire fence up and let the goats eat it clean. So yeah, it's all good. Just keep on adding more seeds through the season, delay them by 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and just keep on growing.
Typically bother growing corn?
No, specifically because I have bees. I will not grow corn. Corn puts out a syrup that is actually pretty nasty to a bee's digestive system all along the edge of the leaves. It's got little like sharp knives for bees' guts, and it destroys the bees. So I don't grow corn.
Oh. Holy shit.
And it's really, really hard to find non-GMO goddamn that horrible plant poison proof corn anywhere. And once you get that into a beehive, it kills the hive.
We do have a bunch of pictures of bees as well. I'm going to pull a bunch up here. Just give me about 10 seconds.
I was going to ask how many hives that you have.
We started off with 2 3 years ago. Lost 1 over winter. Bought another 2. Ended up with 3. Lost 1. Ended up with 2. Last year, 2020, we did phenomenally well. We had 3 hives, and in the fall, by the time everyone went to sleep, we had 6. You want to rotate that 90 degrees to the right?
Yeah, give me a second.
It's come out squiffed. Bees don't drape themselves to the left and right. They kind of hang down.
You're looking at here, those are all bees individually.
That is a breeding swarm. So our hives did so well with the clover fields I've planted over the last 3 years that our hives split 3 times last year. We ended up with 6 hives. There you go. Yeah, so that's a mating swarm. That's 3 mating swarms, actually. There's a queen in each of those bundles. And we captured each of them and stuck them in a new hive, and they stayed. And we ended up with 6 hives going into winter.
And how much honey do you get per hive out of each one of those swarms? Oh, look.
For those 3, nothing. We allowed them to keep everything. So right in the middle of that is the queen, the big long girl there, and around her are the female workers. And I don't see any drones in there. There's no big googly eyes. The drones are really distinctive. They've got these massive black eyes. They look like they're a shocked, surprised bee. And they're fatter than the little worker bees as well. Out of those 3 that we captured, nothing. We let them keep everything they produced, so they would go into winter with stores. That's a filled frame with the bees still on it as you pull it out. You gently brush those off or smoke them, and they climb back in the hive and carry on. And then you harvest the honey. And from a normal hive, you will get about 20 to 60 pounds of honey, depending upon how big the hive is. We picked 40 pounds of honey from 2 operational hives, fully functional, ready to go, and 1 that was partial. And then the other 3, we didn't take anything from it all. We left the supplies for them.
What color? It's very yellow.
That's from the clover. Yeah.
You have
buckwheat honey.
4 acres of clover and buckwheat for the bees and the goats.
Yep. I've got somewhere in the region of 3 to 4 acres of clover, and I'll be expanding that. I'll be putting into my general grass. I'll be putting clover in there as well. I've got another bag of clover to throw into that. And then I plant about 1 acre to 2 acres of buckwheat as well.
Well, you've mentioned before that bees, when they're dealing with different types of flowers, they tend to segregate. So you've got your clover,
yep.
and then you've got your buckwheat, and you find they just tend to split it up.
Yeah, they do.
Now, commercial honey, which is what most people are used to, just kind of has a neutral flavor to it. What would you say the flavor would be like for a clover honey and a buckwheat honey?
Clover honeys are ridiculously sweet and clear. All I can really think of it is as it's bright. It shines in your mouth. You put it in your mouth, a raw clover honey, as opposed to the processed honey from the store. It lights up. You eat it and it's just boom. It's summer. It's absolutely amazing. A buckwheat honey is dark. It's earthy. It tastes more like a Guinness. It's got that sharp kind of musk earth taste to it.
So this picture here, is this the buckwheat honey?
No, that's a mix of wildflower and clover. The buckwheat would be about 3 shades darker.
Oh, that's exciting. I like that. It'd be really good for barbecue. Give you a nice glaze.
Oh, yes, it does. It goes really well on venison and goat.
It's something I think that most chefs don't even really think about with honey. They just take it for granted. Like, okay, honey is honey, right? Well, you have all these different flavors, and as you say, all these different colors. I mean, when you're finishing a dish, I know this is big with barbecue in particular. I know the Chinese, they use something called maltose syrup, which is kind of like a barley malt syrup, and it's a mirror finish. It's really clear, and they like to finish some of their barbecue with that. Versus, we had WFS Texas on for our last episode, and he's big into barbecue. He's starting his own place, and he would probably glaze with something honey based, I would guess, and I'm sure he'd be excited with something like buckwheat honey.
I have not met anyone yet that I've let them taste buckwheat honey who hasn't gone, holy God, that's good.
I have seen it in specialty import stores before. I've just never bothered to buy it. I don't go through enough honey as it is, although that's changing very fast.
It's kind of a niche market, I think, kind of like that Manuka honey from New Zealand. It's not common, not really well known, and people will look at it like that doesn't look like the normal yellow honey. So what you're seeing there in this closest one is the wax that we've cut off previous frames and just balled together and chucked in there for smelting and melting later. And then you've got a full comb ready to cut the wax off it, the top wax, and then we just scrape everything into the pot. We did upgrade this season to an actual honey spinner. So you would put 2 of those frames. You cut off the top wax, and you put 2 of the frames in the spinner, and then you turn a manual handle, and it spins the honey out. What that does is it keeps the comb that the bees have made intact, so you can take those frames back to the hive and put them back in, and the bees will clean out the remaining honey and fill it at twice the speed, because now they don't have to build the comb.
So you've also mentioned that you save the beeswax. What do you do with it?
We make salves and balms and lip ice and medications for our dogs' feet and elbows for the winter, and for our hands and feet for the winter.
It's funny you actually mention it too, because a friend of mine who's actually in the chat right now just bought some beeswax and made a bunch of different types of finish for woods.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it works for that as well if you want to do a wax oil beautiful. Finish. Yep, it's really good.
Yeah.
And then the dirty wax I use for lubing my black powder bullets.
You do see a lot of beeswax cosmetics out there, like lip balm, as you mentioned. I wish we saw more because yeah, like that's really nice that you're getting a natural product that's pretty versatile like that. But maybe a reason why we don't see that, and something I did want to get to, if you read the sort of the environmentalist type news sites, something they've been mentioning for a long time is that the general population of honeybees has been dying. I haven't been able to verify this myself, but I'm wondering, is there something to it, and what do you think the cause is, if true?
Yes, the bee populations are declining, and it is absolutely and totally linked to spraying of neonicotinoids. So those poisons I was trying to remember the name of, neonics or neonicotinoids, are a anti-insectoid spray. Roundup has it in it, that is used pervasively in mass agriculture. As I said, you can't find corn that isn't Roundup ready. And if you can, instead of $10 a bag for 50 pounds, you're looking at $200 a bag for 50 pounds.
So it's an
and then they look at you funny. Yes. And the insecticide interferes with the nervous system of the animal that gets it. And corn is specific in excreting it along the tips of the leaves into the sugar system, and that then gets in and kills the bees. It also makes them more susceptible. If it doesn't kill them, it makes them more susceptible to mites and to funguses and to general ill health and to wax moth infestations, and makes them not as physically strong and able to resist pests. I think I sent you a picture of a wasp.
Yeah, the murder horde. You sent me a picture of the murder horde. I didn't save it. But,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Yes, that is an Asian hornet, and they are in Canada, and they are in Ontario. And your standard yellow jackets that we get, they'll also raid hives, and if the bees aren't strong enough, they will actually kill a hive.
I was just going to mention that my cousin's entire bee hive got wiped out all just by yellow jackets.
Yep.
Just took a video of it and showed it me, and they'll just sit there and completely annihilate the whole thing until it's done. I was just like, wow, that's just like the video of the Asian hornets. Same thing.
Yeah, they just sit outside and they line the exit entrance where the bees come and go, and as the bees stick their heads out, they cut their heads off. Yep.
Yeah, I prefer to call them cunts with wings as opposed to yellow jackets.
Yellow stripy things, and the last one is the cunt with wings. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they're nasty. I leave the yellow jacket nests alone on the farm if they are head height and above. I don't touch them because they do all my work for killing all my pests and things on my plants. I don't use pesticides or herbicides or anything like that. If they are head height or below, I burn them completely, destroy them. I wait until they all go home at the night, and I pour gasoline on them, and I light the bastards on fire, especially if they are in the ground. And I so far have not found a nest with those Asian hornets. I have seen and killed 5 of them in the last 3 years. So they are in the area. I don't know where the nest is, but the day I find it, I will pour gasoline down it and I will burn it.
You have to do a lot of pest control and varmint control on your property.
Yeah, I live on with my farm backing onto 200 acres of swamp. So I have everything that eats and crawls and lives out there, and it's very healthy. I've got weasels, I've got mink, I've got raccoon, I got skunk, I got porcupine, I've got foxes, I got coyotes, and I have an occasional wolf pack that comes through. I've only seen them twice in 4 years, but they do come through. And I really like it when they come through because they don't bother anything except eat the coyote pack, which is awesome.
What pests do you think you probably have the most problems with?
Mink.
And what do they go after mostly? Your chickens?
Chickens, baby goats, ducks, rabbits, turkeys, Adult turkeys, they'll kill anything that's up to the size of a small dog.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are horrible, horrible creatures. I lost
And it's
an
an all
entire...
year long battle. Here we have snow most of the time, so we don't even have to worry about our crops. But then the little bastards come up the next year, and it's just like it's a fight all over again.
Mhm.
They destroy everything in their wake. I hate gophers. I absolutely despise them. They've cost people so much money. People don't even understand how much money that gopher can cost you. It's ridiculous.
Nothing like a 223 to make a gopher's day really bad.
I'm gonna ask, how do you deal with them? Well, now you've answered.
There you go. You make a hole in them with a high velocity projectile. I do a lot of trapping. I've got snare traps and snap traps for weasels on poles and things. I've got box snap traps for weasels that are just out constantly. I have actual proper weasel mink traps out in the bush and around the perimeter of the property. So anything that passes through has to go through them. And then for the foxes and the coyotes, I sit and I shoot. Because I've got dogs, I won't snare trap for foxes or coyotes because my dogs could get into them. So I do the hard work. I sit and I shoot for coyotes and foxes. Oh, and we get bobcat every now and then as well too. Oh, sorry, Canadian lynx, not bobcat, Canadian lynx. I've had 2 come through in the 5 years we've been on the property.
That's some incredible wildlife to actually see in one small vicinity. Yeah.
I have no toxins. I have no poisons. I have no herbicides or pesticides. I don't poison because it indiscriminately kills. I have snakes and frogs and 3 different species of turtles and salamanders. Oh my God, you should have seen the size of the salamander I found in the fall. It was as long as my freaking hand. Absolutely gorgeous.
I have a picture here you sent me of what some minks did to your farm. I'll just bring it up right now.
Yep, that was my breeding flock with my blue and green genetics for the eggs. And it was 6 hours. I went out, it was disgustingly cold night. And I went out at midnight to check on the critters and everything was fine. And I went out again at 5:30 and I opened the coop door and the mink was inside killing off the one in the top right corner. And she was one of my absolute brilliant blue egg layers. And I actually dived for the mink bare-handed to kill it.
That's how you know he's from South Africa. They don't fuck around down there. I mean, that's like a burglar breaking into your place, for sure.
Yeah, he's going to be dog food. Yeah. And I know it would have bitten me, but there would have been 2 halves of a mink. So, and I was willing, and as I went for it, I knew without a doubt it was if I caught it, it was going to bite me. But once its mouth is engaged, sucks to be you.
Good Lord. Are those birds salvageable for yourself, for the family, or for the dogs, maybe?
No, mink are awful creatures. When they kill something, they shit and piss on it to mark it as theirs.
Too bad.
Yeah, they are indiscriminate killers. They just go on a rage. What I did find is I trapped the mink later, and I trapped 3 mink coming back to the coop. 2 young males and a big female. The female was the one that I just about grabbed. And when I did trap her 3 weeks later, she was 2.5 feet long, nose to tip of tail, and she had 6 littles inside.
So I'm guessing you support the fur trade then.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, without a doubt. I love fur. It's wonderful. It's warm. It smells good once you clean it properly. Why do you think animals have fur coats?
Are you planning on selling mink scarves anytime soon?
If I catch it anymore, yes, absolutely. It is so soft and silky.
Well, there you go, guys. Get your girlies a mink scarf for her birthday or for Valentine's Day, and you know where to go now.
Damn, what I would do with that.
Yeah.
I'm glad my wife isn't watching to hear this, but nah, she doesn't get the mink. It'd be like in my gun case or something like that. Just all nice and fluffy and shaped down on the bottom where all the pieces sit.
You
And all the
know
velvet
you're a
that stands in
redneck
the
when
back
the
of
mink
it.
stays out of the bedroom and goes into the gun closet.
What's wrong with mink in the bedroom? It's silky.
Hoarding it for himself.
Who says the gun isn't in, or the gun rack isn't in the bedroom?
That just makes you even
Should
more
be
of a
next to
redneck.
the bed. Should be right next to the damn bed, my man. How the hell else are you going to get it out in under 5 seconds while responding while the dogs are barking?
Right.
I always wanted to build that headboard that when you just push up, your shotgun drops into your hand.
Knocked your old lady away accidentally one night.
Just don't hit the headboard wrong.
No, it's just like everything
Clunked
else.
in
It's
the
got
noggin.
a safety pin.
Get clumped in the noggin. That'll put a rune to the moment. Good Lord.
Oh,
I
you don't even know the half of it.
I want to go back.
I'm a medic.
I want to go back to the gardening topic a bit. So we didn't really
Yes.
cover your fruit end of it. Could you just talk about, say, putting up some apple trees, some pear trees, just the process involved?
Oh, that's difficult in our climate. 3 years ago, we put in 5 apple trees and 4 pear trees. And as of going into this fall, I had 2 apple trees and 1 pear tree left. And they ain't cheap to buy, I'll tell you that. They didn't die because of lack of water. What happened is we had those freeze-thaw cycles in the spring, and all the buds opened. And the buds open, and then they are susceptible to frost. And I didn't catch that. And instead of draping them with sackcloth, they were left open, and I lost most of the trees. It was the same year I lost a 10-foot tall silver maple and a couple of pines and half of my blackberries. They all popped open and then froze and died. So
yeah, the freeze-thaw cycles have been more prominent, I've noticed, in the past couple of years. We've had a lot of them in Alberta this winter. It's really eating the roads up, and that's just the roads. That doesn't even go for the agriculture. So there are a couple farms near where I shop for my produce north of here that sell apples, a lot of crab apples. There's one that operates just kind of like an honored system. It's just kind of like a shed on the side of the road, and they have probably like 10 or 12 different varieties of apples, and then they have a couple varieties of pears as well. But I noticed that their season was really short. It was right at the end of the summer, and I think by October they were done. But I bought them up like crazy, and I froze them because I thought, well, it's really hard to get that stuff out here because most of it comes from BC, so I'm going to get as much as possible.
yeah, it's fruit growing is very, very difficult. As I said, my trees are only 3-4 years old, and you only really start getting anything off them usable at 4, 5, 6. So this year I'm going to be buying a couple more pear trees, but I'm going to buy bigger pear trees, spend more on them. I'm going to put them closer to the house in deeper soil, because pear trees are weird. You need more than one because they can't self-pollinate. They have to cross-pollinate from pear tree to pear tree, whereas most apple trees can self-pollinate. So it was annoying that we didn't get pears because we got them last year, like 5 or 6 pears, but we got pears off our pear trees, and then one of them died, so now we don't have pear trees. So I'll be getting more.
Yeah, those pear trees are pretty damn horny. You don't want any incels, so you better get them a girlfriend.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know if we have the climate for it, but have you ever worked with quince?
No, haven't even considered it. Don't even know what it requires.
I think that quince requires a warm climate, but it's an interesting fruit because it's really fragrant, like a pear, but it has a shit ton of pectin in it. So I guess people in previous eras used just strictly quince for jams and jellies. They didn't have
Instead of
powdered
apple.
pectin. Yeah, because some fruits have pectin in them. I guess quince just has a shit ton of it. I've worked a little bit with quince, and if you bake it and sort of steam it in the oven, it gets really tender and quite nice. Has kind of a honey flavor to it. Yeah, just figured I'd ask. And also, you have a couple different varieties of berries that you grow. Some that I haven't even seen before, so you might as well get into that.
Sorry, what was that? Berries?
Yes, the berries.
Oh, yeah, we got your standard old-fashioned thorny blackberries. We've got black raspberries, which we found growing wild on our property, red raspberries, and strawberries. And then what are those funny little orange ones that we grow? Very, very sour. I'll try and remember the name.
Well, you did mention you grew loganberries as well. Is that what you meant?
No, I think the name was wrong that I used.
Okay,
I can't remember the name of the berries.
Orange berries tend to be like a sea buckthorn. Is that what you mean?
No. It's a low bush. And it grows really, really well here, actually. Oh, damn. I can't remember the name of it right now. Old age creeping up and my brain falling out my ass.
But with that said, you don't operate a U-pick. You just grow the berries for your family and your neighbors, correct?
Yeah, we've only been doing berries 2 years. To the end of this fall would have been 2 years. And we haven't got a reliable crop yet. I've been trying a whole bunch of different things to get them to produce more, and how to keep the birds, holy God, the birds off the berries. They decimated our strawberries this last year.
So for the city dwellers out there, one of the best kept secrets in the country is just a vast array of U-picks. And the concept behind a U-pick is the farmer will grow just a ton of some sort of product. It tends to be like strawberries are the most popular. There are a lot of Saskatoon Berry U-picks up here, some raspberry U-picks. You can do choke cherries. I know another place that does Hosca berries. They do sea buckthorn. And yeah, you've got to do some poking around online, read some food magazines, and do some driving. But once you get out there, I mean, it's amazing. You just get out there in the summer in the hot, beady sun, and you get down on your hands and knees. You bring a bucket with you, and you get right into nature. And there's nothing better than a fresh, wild strawberry. The flavor is just incredible. It is 10 times better than anything you'll get in a store. I picked 15 pounds of strawberries this year. I just took me an hour. I went to the front desk with my strawberries. Like, okay, how long did it take me? An hour. I picked 15 pounds of strawberries an hour, and the girl's like, wow, that's really good. And I ended up freezing it and making jam. But it depends on the price. Some places are pretty pricey. Like, you're looking at like $5 a pound for strawberries. I mean, the place I went to, I think I only paid $3 a pound. So you do have to do a little bit of scouting out there. But take your kids, take your family. It's a wonderful experience. You just need some gardening gloves and some buckets, and it's loads of fun. So I recommend doing U-picks for, again, the city dwellers out there who are kind of ignorant as to how things work out in the country. Just get out there. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's absolutely for sure. They really don't understand how to get out in the country and do the U-pick stuff at all.
And there are,
if you're on the mountain ranges, if you're going on down the road too, going through the mountains and stuff, you can look over and you'll see like little signs saying wild strawberries. You can just pull over to the side of the road, and there's a lot of them are like really well hidden. And if you don't know what to look for, you'd just miss it. And you pull over and you go out for a little walk, and yeah, bunch of strawberries just sitting there. Same ones you would feed the cows. Exact same ones, pretty much.
And there are some places here around Edmonton. I know there are a bunch of them on the prairies that will actually sell frozen berries year round. Saskatoon berries in particular. So for about the past 9 months, I've actually just been buying frozen Saskatoon berries in bulk and paying anywhere from $3 to $4 a pound, and then they just sit in my freezer, and I'll pull like 5 pounds at a time, and then I'll eat that in about a week or so. And go on to the next one. Now, Saskatoon Berries, it was a really shitty harvest last year, the farmers tell me. Like, both places I bought from, they told me they got nothing for Saskatoons last year. So, I mean, who knows what this year is going to be like, what the stock levels are going to be like. But as far as berries go, what I was told is that the berries you find in the supermarkets and the berries you find in the restaurants, like we just get them from wholesale suppliers, right? They're genetically bred so that they're full of water and they last much longer. So your typical fresh berry will only last for a couple days before it turns to mush, and you have to be really careful when you're storing them. You have to store them flat on like a baking sheet or something so they don't crush each other. And they go moldy pretty fast versus like a clamshell of strawberries, which can last you probably like a week and a half.
Some of them you just leave out; they'll just dry up. Like some of them don't even. They just will dry out.
Yeah,
they don't go moldy.
And raspberries are very delicate. They're like pillows, and they could go soft in a day or two if you're not careful. Versus the ones we get at the restaurants, which will probably last us a week. And the flavor, there's such a massive difference. Like a nice wild or a properly grown natural berry is just so sweet. It's wonderful versus the stuff you get in the restaurants that's watery. There just isn't that much flavor to it. And this last year was my first year doing U-Picks, and I couldn't believe the difference in flavor. And I'm bringing this stuff to work. I'm showing guys like there's a massive difference here. Huge.
Yep. It's ridiculous how different the store-bought stuff is versus what you get in your garden. So
I don't know if my cousin still has it. My wife's cousin bought a U-Pick. It even had a freezer and everything. I don't know if she still does it, but that's out here somewhere, and I'm sure that the fruit is still good. But I know she's pregnant with her 6th child, so I mean, good luck if she's doing anything with it.
Well, the problem with the strawberry U-Picks is that they're so busy during the summer, they always sell out, so they never have any frozen stock.
Yeah, and when they bought this place, it has a big, huge walk-in freezer that's built into the garage. So I don't know if they use it or what they do. If I had it, I would definitely be stocking it with everything from meat, vegetables to everything, and then 100% keep a generator on hand. Even Costco right now, you get those flyers. Costco has a generator that will run on 3 different fuels, propane, gasoline, or natural gas.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and if you had one of those, you can have a tiebreaker on your house and flick over to that, and then that would power the majority of your house if you wanted to. Most of the stuff I would shut down if you were under like an emergency and you have to sacrifice your fuel. But yeah, I just experienced it. I was the only house on my block that had lights, and it was
we did something very similar. We put in a 7,000 kilowatt or a 7 kilowatt or 7,000 watt generator, and we put in an emergency panel, and we ran specific lights, plugs, and systems off it. We've got 2 plugs in the kitchen. The fridges run. The pellet stove runs. The well pump runs. We have a light on the landing up by the bedrooms, and we have a light in the basement. And we have the fan for the electrical toaster that can run, so we can keep our house warm. We have water. We have the ability to cook in the kitchen with a little 1,000 watt 2-plate burner, and our fridges are working, and everything else shuts down. And none of our animals have heat in the barns or the sheds or the coops, so that doesn't matter for them. And the other thing that we did do is we have water that runs out to the livestock that has a heat trace inside the line that is now also on the panel, so that our livestock still have water.
That's excellent. Well, how cold the temperatures do you get?
Jesus, that last dip that we had, we were down at -24. So, and what was it?
Yeah, that's cold.
2019 to 2020, we got down to minus 33 registering outside the coop and minus 25 in the coop.
Yeah, that's some serious temperatures. That's enough to disable a lot of stuff.
Oh God, yes, yeah, absolutely. We get Ottawa gets similar kind of temperatures that Moscow gets, so it's and we have a little
average
weird
day here usually.
Yeah, and we have a little weird weather pattern where we are. We sometimes get a lot more wind, so that the cold chill after that is worse. So our coops and things we can lock them down. We can lock them down to wind tight.
That's
so
excellent.
the animals
Casper,
are inside and out of the wind.
You mentioned you're setting up some greenhouses as well. I know Juicy wanted to ask you about that.
Yes, we are. And
Juicy was checking her canning.
Yes, that's important to check. So greenhouses.
Yeah, greenhouses. What do you grow in your greenhouses?
We start all our veggies in there. Right now, when we were down at minus 20 something, we were at 0 in the greenhouse.
So you put all your seedlings in there?
Yep, without any extra heat, we were at 0.
You don't heat them at all with anything. It's just the internal temperature of it itself.
Correct. We are using passive solar heating, although we will be going into a waste oil heating system once we get all 3 of them up. And we are also doing those solar pop can heaters.
Is that where you do like your tomatoes and peppers and stuff all summer?
The peppers we do all summer in there. The tomatoes we start and then put out in the ground because we get enough heat in the one little pocket where we grow our tomatoes that they can grow there very, very easily. In fact, we have to really thin them out because the damn things go bush and crazy. Our greenhouses, there's 2 different kinds that we've got going right now. One kind is an old garage, those pop-up garages, your Quebec garage, right? Or the Gatineau garage. And we've ripped off the plastic and we've tied them down to cedar logs, and so they're off the ground. And then we put cedar planking and or tin around the backside. This is the north side. And then on the south side, we've got that transparent poly roofing that lets sunlight through. And inside that, we've got, on the inside of the steel frame, we have a layer of greenhouse plastic that lets the UV and stuff through. And so that gives you your double barrier. And we just windproof it by digging snow around the bottom. By the time the snow melts, it's warm enough. And we have windows that we pop open or close depending upon the temperature in the air.
So for the people in Alberta and Saskatchewan, the Medicine Hat area is pretty much the greenhouse capital of Canada, or so I've been told. Mm-hmm. And they pump out just a ridiculous amount of greenhouse vegetables. So the main company out of there is called Red Hat. They also have various brands like the Cucumber Man. So if you look at your supermarkets, you're going to see a lot of their produce, like their tomatoes or cucumbers. You don't see as many bell peppers from them, but the tomatoes and bell pepper, cucumbers in particular, you see a lot of. And what happens is they come out of a town that's just outside of Medicine Hat called Redcliffe. And Redcliffe's an interesting place because there's pretty much a greenhouse on every corner, and you can just walk in. It's an honor system type place. You just put some money in a box and you walk out with beautiful produce. So I would recommend anyone, Southern Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan, give that a look because it's a really unique place that you wouldn't expect to find in a place like Canada, but because Medicine Hat gets so much sunlight, they can pull it off.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and for those who've never had like a proper fresh tomato or a fresh bell pepper, the aroma coming off of them, amazing. There's a huge difference, and it's again one of the reasons why the Mediterranean pumps out the best food possible because they have so much fertile ground for farming, and they have a beautiful warm climate. So they have tons of fresh produce, which is why their cuisines are all based around it, and which is why our stupid little imitations of their cuisine are never as good, because the produce just isn't fresh.
Yeah, in the summer we just walk past the tomato plants and the bean plants and the pea plants and just hook them off and eat them. It's my kids never liked fresh veggies until they could graze outside, and then you find them walking past the plants and munching on stuff. It's good.
Yeah, and if you do have to buy produce from the supermarket, always get your tomatoes with the vine on. The vine is how they stay fresh. You smell the vine. If you smell that vine aroma, you know that they're at least somewhat fresh. If you don't smell the vine, they're not fresh.
I find that most grocery store tomatoes don't really taste like tomatoes anyway.
Well, and they also tend to be coated with like a carnauba wax or something, so they stay fresh longer, so they look nicer. Which is another.
Our local IGA has a Hutterite colony tomatoes. They're really good. They're on the vine. I mean, it's hit or miss, but most, like you were saying before, most of the vegetables that go there, a lot of people complain about their produce there, but they try to get as fresh as possible so that it has to be bought or within a day. Like sometimes within the day, it's already going moldy. So they've had the entire store completely refitted with all new stuff to help keep it fresh. And still, if you take it home and you don't do your, like, take it out of the bag or leave it on the counter for too long, yeah, it's even putting it in the fridge the wrong way will destroy it in a matter of a day or so.
Well, one of the benefits of buying fresh produce from farms and growing it yourself is that it actually lasts a lot longer if you take care of it, because you're taking out that phase where it's being taken from the factory farm, held in a warehouse, and then shipped to whatever supermarket you buy it from.
Numerous
and
places
sits until you buy it, which could be like 2 weeks or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
You're cutting that out.
Yeah.
So instead, you have that time to let it sit in your refrigerator, which is what I do. I buy produce about every 2 weeks, and then it just sits in there because I buy it in bulk, and then I make use of it. I seldom throw produce out because I'm buying it really, really fresh.
Casper, have you dealt with any aquaponics or anything? Or have you ever thought about doing that?
Thought about it extensively. And the plan is as follows. It'll be the third greenhouse, and it's going to be a compressed clay bed. And then I'm going to put down that black irrigation drainage pipe, and then I'm going to throw soil over that. And then I'm going to lay on top of that a support structure, I'm guessing, so that I don't crush it when everything compresses, to build a 10 by 20 or 20 by 40 pool 3 feet deep. That's going to have carp, and then what are those?
Is that tilapia?
Tilapia, and then there's a northern kind of sucker fish that we get up here, mud pout, I think they're called. They're all cold water fish, don't need heating. So you can keep the water at about 4 or 5 degrees instead of having to keep it at 15 or 20. And that's going to be heated with a waste oil heating system. And then the back of the building is going to be earth tires, so like earth ship build. And over that, I will throw layers of dirt and grow clover for the bees. And then the front is going to be the sloped roof at the correct angle for our latitude, to capture the most sun at the depths of winter. And that's just math, which I haven't got on my head right now, but it's a math formula. You take your latitude and you find out what angle you need to get a 90 degree, and you build your slope at that, and it gets the most penetration at the depths of winter. It gives you the best heating on the winter solstice. And you face that due south, and then The waste gas from the waste oil will be pumped into the greenhouses as CO2 for the evenings, and the heat will be used to keep the water, the soil in all three of the greenhouses warm. And any waste greenery will go into the fish, and then the fish water will get cycled up through expanded clay pellet beds, through two of them. And in the first one, you'll grow your nutrient-rich or nutrient-demanding growths and stuff and plants, so basically greens. And the second one down, you'll grow the less nutrient-demanding. And it's an ebb and flow system. So it kicks on every 3 to 6 hours, and it does a 2 times exchange of the water by volume. And then it shuts off. And then the beds drain out. And then every 3 to 6 hours later, it kicks on again. We've had a small 20-gallon, 30-gallon, 40-gallon fish tank going for the last 5 years, where we do a lot of our seed starting in the house, and it's got 2 small beds above it. Basically, you exchange the 1/3 volume into the beds above, and then you do a 2-volume exchange total, and then you turn the pump off again. And
so you've already been doing it?
I've been doing it for 2 years, 3 years, or more now. Yeah. On a small scale. I've got all the inoculation bacteria up and running in that small system, and it's just a matter of upscaling it. So it's
That's
ready
really
to go.
Impressive.
Yeah. Oh, we've been planning stuff like this for 12 years now, my lady and I. So this is not a short-term thing. If anybody thinks they're going to go into producing a farm and doing what we're doing in next year, they're smoking crack.
Mm-hmm.
We've taken 5 years to get where we are on this property, and it took us 15 before that to find this property.
There's a documentary on Netflix. My sous chef recommended me last year that I ended up watching. I think it's called like the Biggest Little Farm or something, and it's about this liberal couple who live in Santa Monica, so Los Angeles on the beach, and they've got this shitty little apartment, and they're both in their 30s, and then they're miserable. So then the woman is a chef, so then she decides, you know what, let's just go out of the city and let's get a farm. And so her boyfriend, I think, was like a camera operator or something, and they end up doing
no physical strength between either of them.
Yeah. So they put forth a business proposal. They got some investors, and then they got a farm outside of Los Angeles, and then they got some organic farming expert to advise them, and they got a bunch of eager farm hands to help them out. And the first couple of years, I mean, you just can't help but laugh at them, because like it's sort of the loss of innocence that a lot of liberals go through when they enter a tough period of life, right? Like you have all these free-range birds that they're doing, they're selling a lot of eggs, and then all of a sudden the coyotes come and they just rip through all of them, and then they get married. The husband's like, "Oh, okay,
I shouldn't laugh," but
and the husband's got to buy a gun, and they're so reluctant to do anything to kill off of these coyotes, because they're just like, "Oh no, they're just animals. We don't want to hurt the animals."
Pretty little song dogs, lovely song dogs.
But over time, as they grow hardened, as they learn how farms work, they develop this ecosystem, because they don't use pesticides or any of that stuff. I think it took them about 5 years to really get going, and they had everything. They had loads of fruit, loads of produce, they had chickens, they had all sorts of animals going, and it kind of goes into detail on just how the ecosystem works, on how every little creature has a purpose. And then it's something you've sort of mentioned as well, like just how every creature has a purpose in what they do, and how you just sort of let nature work its course.
Yeah, as much as I can. I really don't hunt the coyotes or the foxes or the mink unless they come close to the property. And then it's a specific area of denial. You don't come here. Right? If you do, I'm going to pick you off. If you come within this range, they are traps. The rest of the property I leave be. Right? And it's helped significantly getting the 3 dogs and teaching them to protect the livestock. My zone of influence just tripled. Just poof. All of a sudden, I've got this seclusion zone around my property where we lost birds to old age this year instead of losing birds to predators.
which is a good sign. It means you're doing a good job. But
Yeah, finally.
What all this reinforces is just how complex nature is, and that no matter how hard we try, we can't outsmart it. We have to be really careful.
Oh, God,
we can't
no.
just start, modifying the crap out of it because it has disastrous results. And you look at what some of the pesticides like atrazine are doing to the water supply.
Oh, God.
Ugly stuff like Alex Jones says, turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Well, it's definitely changing sexes, so that's partly correct. He's not all the way wrong. Some of the shit he says is so off the moon, it's unbelievable, but a lot of it is on point.
Well, you first hear that, you're like, oh, I don't know, man. Then you read into the stuff about atrazine, you're like, okay, maybe you're right.
Okay, maybe he's right, yeah. You read into the stuff about Roundup, and you go, nah, that couldn't be killing the bees, and then you read some more, and you go, holy shit, that's what's killing the bees. Yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000s, we really started noticing that there was a lot more feminine men. They just called them metrosexuals or whatever. And as even the days and the years went by, more and more of them become feminine. And now when I look in my daughter's school, the women are more masculine than the men are. They're soft, they whine. I'm a rig worker. And almost all my friends who are rig workers with me won't go back to the rigs because of how bad it is for like we yell at each other for a reason, to keep each other alive and to have each other's back. Now you can have a lawsuit on you if you yell at somebody. It's that savage.
Well, working on the rigs back in the day is kind of like the male version of being a porn star, right? You're selling your body. You could really, really hurt yourself.
For brutality? Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I did a lot of time in the oil rigs in northern Alberta and BC, man. And then a lot around the world on drill ships and jack-up rigs. And it's deadly work. And I was the medic, and I got to deal with people that got severely messed up because shit went wrong.
I got messed up a couple times myself. I had my thumb crushed. It was crazy because I had a Marine. He was from the States. And he was up stick. So he's at the top of the derrick pulling the pipe back. And the whole rig was leaning. And the elevators, when they came down, it caught my thumb between the stump of the pipe and the elevators.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And
you still got all of your thumb?
Yep. Yeah, even the thumbnail grew back mostly.
Damn. Tough butter.
Fucking... I threw off the glove and blood was like kind of spraying, and the fucking first person that was there, I have a guy 4 feet away from me. I have another guy to my left, maybe 3 feet away from me. And the first person to catch it was the fucking Marine up top, and he slid down the stairs and he was right there on me, and he's like, holy fuck. And I ended up just rolling pipe for the rest of the night. And then the next day I had to fucking stick a tack through the fucking thing to relieve the pressure, but other than that,
they swell up nicely.
I was lucky. I was very lucky that time.
Yep.
I also got a third degree and a second degree caustic burn when I was green. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And they told me to put the steam down the hole to fucking blow out the pipe, and the steam came back and it went blew back on me, and fucking I screamed like a girl. Like,
caustic will make people scream. I don't care how big the guy is. I know that scream. Yeah, I've heard it a few times on the rigs. Yeah, it's like, oh shit, run! Somebody's in trouble.
Wipe the skin off my wrist like it was a marshmallow. It was fucking brutal. Yeah.
Yep. It leaves some awful scars afterwards too.
Yeah, and it never actually that never did heal right. It looks all weird when I get a suntan there.
Yep, it will. You've lost all the melanin there.
We're running well on time so far. So something else you raise a lot of poultry on your farm.
Yes,
I'd like to get into that. I'll pull a picture up of your chickens here.
The live ones, not the dead ones that the Blam Mix got to. Yes, so the big brown rooster in the middle there, that gentleman's name is Sam. He's our dominant rooster. That's a Rhode Island Red, 2 Guinea Fowls next to Sam, a small turkey in the background, a couple of ducks, another turkey, and off on the top left is the coop. Now the coop is pretty much bomb-proof. I finally got that right. if you have anything that is a ground predator, mink, weasel, fox, coyote, skunk, raccoon, the coops need to be built with no more than 1/8 of an inch gap anywhere. That includes your doors, because a weasel will get through anything bigger than 1/8 of an inch. You cannot use chicken wire, because chicken wire is only good for holding back baby chicks, and even then only after they're a little bit bigger so they don't slide through the holes. Chicken wire is just a slow down technique for raccoons. They tear it open like paper mache, and anything bigger than or stronger than a raccoon doesn't even pause going through it. So you need to use welded wire. I use 2x6 construction that is insulated, so that I don't have to worry about wind drafts and things. And the design of the coop I have is from the 1930s, so that it utilizes the body heat of the chickens to circulate the air and to keep the coop warm. That way I don't need to use heat in the winter, and it's proven itself over the last 4 years, completely, totally. I have no doubts it works. I get a little bit of frostbite sometimes, and that's only on the roosters with their bigger combs. You've got to have enough perches for the hens to sit so their big feathers can cover their toes, and other than that, it's good. Nobody gets frostbite at all. Even in the last batch of really cold weather, it was just the one rooster got some frostbite.
I've seen references in passing in various cookbooks to guinea fowl, but of course I've never seen one before. Could you describe what a guinea fowl is?
A guinea fowl is a bird that originates in the tropics. It's found in South America, Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia. It is the equivalent of a cross between a grouse and a chicken. It is flighty. It is temperamental. It is dumb as a goddamn fence post. And unless you raise it under hens and let the hens raise them, you will never get them to come into a coop. They have a habit of perching as high up trees as they can go. We made that mistake in the first year. We hand raised them and free raised them. And we ate all of those because we could never bring them inside. I shot them out of the trees. And the next
make a
batch,
mess of your grill when you hit them too.
Guinea fowl, yeah, they're like hitting a brick. They're really solid.
They don't get out of the way. They're not fast enough to get out of the way.
No. And the meat is very, very dark and very rich. They're a little bit bigger than, I'd say, a ruffed grouse when you clean them out. We predominantly keep them because they free range everywhere, and they are savage on anything bug, tick, or worm. So they absolutely demolish bugs, ticks, and worms.
Well, that's good news.
So, oh God, yes. I very seldom get any ticks on my dogs or my goats or my kids or anything, because the guineas do that. Going back to the coop, to bomb-proof it against predators, I have it 2 feet off the ground. This summer, I'm going to insulate the floor. I've got finally found the right kind of insulation and wooded in, so the floor will be insulated as well. And every seam is tight, or 1/8 of an inch, and anything that is open, as in a window, has welded wire on the outside and on the inside, and the welded wire on the outside has a wooden frame over it that is screwed down. If you nail it down, the bloody mink will pull it loose.
So guinea fowl, you say it's got probably like a gamey taste to it because it's a bird that can fly, got nice dark red meat to it.
Gorgeous, lovely.
But it's also pretty lean, so low on fat.
Very lean, absolutely very lean. I stuffed my birds in the last 2 months before winter on very high corn to give them some fat to push them through. But other than that, no. I free feed them in the last month as it's getting really cold and the grass is gone. And then after that, I go back to the standard pellet feed. So
guinea fowl then would sort of be like to chicken as venison as to beef, right? Because it's just so lean, so you probably have to add some fat to it when you're cooking it, like duck fat or something.
Absolutely, yes. I use bacon fat and duck fat.
Bacon fat,
Bacon fat is good for everything. Now, if I could finally shoot a damn bear, I'd be using bear fat because bear grease is so good.
If you check your Discord, Rare Raging, I put a couple pictures up there. A friend of mine who's listening in sent them to me, took a picture of me kicking a turkey. This fucking turkey was a mean son of a bitch. He ended up going down.
Most
Yeah, he ended up going down.
Are.
He left me. I punched him pretty fucking hard one day because he really wouldn't leave me the fuck alone. So I fucking knocked him a good one. My wife's uncle knocked him out with a fucking 2x4 once because he just wouldn't leave the kids alone. Like fuck it, he had to go down.
If you look at Sam the rooster there, he's got spurs 1.5 inches long, but he's an absolute softie. He, I think, is my 26th or 27th rooster, because the others were assholes and got some rehabilitation time in the crock pot. Yeah.
They behaved better after the crock pot treatment?
Oh, God, yes, they were absolutely impeccably behaved so well. They went down nicely right beside the mashed potatoes.
No, I don't. Maybe I missed it, but do the guinea fowl lay eggs?
Yes, they do. And it's during the summer only. And they are about 1/3 the size of a chicken egg. They are much richer. And when you boil them, you can use them as cannon ammo.
I heard you right. You said cannon ammo?
Correct. You throw them at somebody's head, you'll crack the person's skull.
Yeah. I just got a picture of a bunch of people throwing them at like the police. So
yeah, it would do significant harm. They are incredibly hard. You really have to beat on them to crack them.
So don't do
People
that.
go tap. Yeah, no. It would actually physically hurt somebody. Raw, they're going to knock at the bloody dent in your skull. Boiled, they're going to drop you.
I've got a picture of the turkey boomers kicking around. He's one mean-looking motherfucker.
Yeah, I've had a few mean turkeys too. They end up in the pot as well. Yeah. I don't have any animals on my property that are vicious. Oh, that's a bronze. That's an American bronze turkey. Very nice.
That's a beautiful bird.
It is.
Yeah, he was.
Did I send you a picture of my turkey Tom?
I don't think you sent me a picture of your turkey.
Everybody names their turkey Tom.
Yeah. He is
Tom
an absolute
picked off turkey.
Yeah, he's an absolute softie. He's a wonderful turkey. Very calm, very well mannered, very polite. But he doesn't end up in the pot because of that, right?
And there's two things that I know from growing up that I strictly believe in to this day is if they like to eat their young or kill their young, I don't want them breeding.
Correct.
And if they are violent in any way towards anybody, they either have to get put aside because they are a necessity to the farm, or they just get
eaten.
Down. Yeah, they get eaten.
Yep.
And Tom, he was uncontrollable. He's too big to really deal with anything, but he was big enough to chase off any real predators at that point because he would slice you. And he'd get you from behind. And
yep.
I'm a pretty small dude at 5'6", but my brother-in-law, he's a big newfie. And he climbed from the bumper of my back of my truck all the way down the side because that turkey just scared the shit right out of him. I'm like, yeah, don't let him get behind you. I told you, don't let him get behind you.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm sending you a picture of Jerky the turkey.
I'll pull a picture up here of the ducks you've got as well.
Mm-hmm. I just bombed you a picture of Jerky the turkey in the messenger. And my son named him Jerky the turkey. So that is a mama duck and ducklings. Mama ducks are amazing. They will accept as many ducklings as you can give them. Whereas chickens can count, and once they hatch them, that's as many as they have. So the technique for getting mama ducks to accept more ducklings is to scare the mama duck a little, and she grabs all her babies together. And then you have the 2 or 3 or 4 in your hands that you want to introduce, and then you run at her violently, and all the ducklings run away. And as the ducklings run away, you drop the 2 or 3 or 4 extra, and then she gathers them all together, and now she's got more babies.
So the chickens are the suburban liberals and the ducks are the Catholics.
Yes. Never thought of it that way. Damn, that's funny. Chickens can count, by the way. Ducks can't. Because they'll count their babies and then they will hone in on the ones that weren't theirs and peck them. So if you're going to give chickens babies to raise, which we do, you have to have them on eggs, and we normally take eggs that are 3 or 4 days old, and then stick them under them and just keep rotating them out so they sit for their period. And as soon as the eggs are hatching in the incubator, I get 100% there. Then I take those hatching eggs and I stick them under the mom at the right time period, and she raises what she's got. Then I don't have to do the work. My last duck had 23 babies she was running around with.
From my experience with ducks, they are actually easier to manage than chickens because they tend to sort of stick together in their own little army and march together.
Yes, very much easier. They don't fly away. You can actually get ducks in a row and teach them when dinner time and bedtime is and where they need to go. The matriarch or the leader of the duck flock will actually do that. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6 right now that are our oldest ducks, and although they're no longer laying, they do maintain the flock integrity, so they stay. And they are specially banded, so we don't eat them because they are all very much look alike, like a duck. Yeah.
How many ducks have you got altogether?
40
Chickens?
ish, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood. I know I put 25 of them in the freezer in the fall.
Oh wow! And how many chickens have you got? Guinea fowl, turkeys?
Guinea fowl, I have 13. Turkeys, I have 12. And chickens, I think I have 23. Yeah. Now, this weekend coming up, the turkeys are going to get thinned out. They're all up at size, and I'm going to just get rid of the second largest male and the third largest male. And then the fourth largest guy, he's going to grow for a bit more. And I'm going to take out one of the hens as well. I got too many hens.
Now, do you harvest a lot of duck eggs?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. They lay an egg a day per duck, per hen in the summer.
What's the flavor profile like of a duck egg versus a chicken egg?
Richer, creamier, yellower.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I know in Asia, duck eggs are a big-time delicacy, and they have the one product where you're getting the duck egg with the embryo still in it. And they do
what's that
duck
thing
eggs.
called again? The Filipinos have a name for that.
Newt.
No. I worked with Filipinos for a fairly long time, and they really, really love that embryo in the egg thing. Ugh, just revolting.
There's a sort of belief in parts of Asia that if you eat a live animal, it just makes you stronger, it makes you more virile. I think it's Thailand, they eat things like cobra hearts when they're still beating, and they say it makes you more of a man.
Yeah, I've eaten snake. It's good stuff. Never eaten cobra heart, but I've eaten snakes.
For those who haven't tried duck meat before, it really is wonderful. It's got loads of fat on it, and you could do so much with it. A lot of restaurants will use duck fat for things like French fries or steaks. You name it. It's a really versatile fat because it's got a little bit of that poultry flavor, but it's also kind of mild at the same time. And for those of you who have been to the more fine dining establishments, almost all of them will have a variation of a dish called a duck confit, which is food of the gods. It's basically a duck leg that's been cured for about anywhere from 1 to 3 days. You just hit it with some kosher salt or some pickling salt, some garlic, some thyme, and then you just rinse it off after your cure is done. And then you render down a bunch of duck fat, and then you slow cook the cured legs in duck fat. The technique is called a confit, to slowly cook in its own fat at about 300 Fahrenheit for about 3 hours, and then you just let that rest and cool in refrigerator or whatever overnight, and then you pull them out of the duck fat. You got to heat it up a little bit to drain the excess fat off, and then you serve it, and it's incredible. It is
Okay,
amazing.
My mouth is watering.
It's probably the best dish I've ever
Damn.
had. Duck confit is
Wow.
amazing. It is French peasant excellence. And the fat is meant as a preservative, so you just leave those in the fat in your refrigerator for a month, and they're still good.
Oh, okay, that sounds absolutely delicious. Holy God.
Almost every restaurant I've worked in that's been worth a damn has had a duck confit on the menu because it's that good.
Okay, I've never eaten that, but it sounds spectacular. So,
have you ever eaten duck at all, actually?
me? Oh God, yes, all the time. As I said, I put 25 of them in the freezer, and I think we're down to 2.
Well, I mean, myself, I don't believe I've ever eaten duck.
Duck is really nice. It's the kind of bird where you have to split up the legs and the breast because the legs take much longer to cook, so you're not going to get an even cook if you roast it. Roasting a duck is pretty difficult. Duck breast is another one of those things you'll see on a finer establishment's menu. You get a lot of fat coming out of the skin, so you could get a really nice crispy skin. It's a wonderful flavor. Most places will serve it cooked to about medium, and you tend to see a lot of Asian-inspired dishes. So you'll see kind of like either a sweet sauce. You can make like a really nice gastrique with, say like Saskatoon berries or something, or blackberries or black currants. That would go quite well with duck breast. Or you could go full on Asian and do some with soy sauce, sesame oil, and maybe some orange juice or some orange segments, some orange zest. Pairing duck with the darker fruits is quite common, and with citrus as well.
The only thing I know is duck à l'orange, or however you say that thing.
No, you got it right. Duck à l'orange we actually had to make in culinary school, so it's basically just it's roast duck with an orange sauce, and the orange sauce you start out by making a caramel with just some sugar, and then you flambe it with something like Grand Marnier, which is an orange liqueur, and then you'll throw in some orange zest, some orange juice, and a gastrique is one of the best sauces around because it's got that nice sweet sour balance to it. And duck à l'orange it's a classical dish for a reason. It's wonderful.
It is very, very good. The Boom is hanging in the chill if you want to bring him back in. So.
Boomer, we lost you there, bud.
Yeah, he typed that he'd lost sound and then he disappeared altogether.
Yeah, there you go. How's that?
He's back.
Thank you.
I've got Jerky the Turkey here, if you want to look at him.
Yeah, he is a Royal Palm Tom. So I picked him up for a very cheap price because he was not looking like that at all when I got him. He was severely the underdog and severely beaten and hacked up, and his beard was pulled out and his feathers were all beaten to hell. And I picked him up for $25 instead of the 60 for a Royal Palm, and he's a heritage breed, and he is an absolute sweetheart. He is calm and gentle. He's good with the hens. He's got his double black and brown in now already. He's now 4 years old. His beard is nearly 12 inches long. His spurs aren't very big, so he doesn't do a lot of damage, and he has 100% fertility. Every freaking egg, man. We didn't miss on one last season.
I don't know why you call him Jerky the Turkey. He doesn't sound like he does much jerking.
No, he doesn't do much jerking, but he does a lot of herking. He does the weirdest dance when he wants a girl, I'll tell you that. And they all come running. They like Jerky the Turkey. My son named him, so I can't attest to being named Jerky and naming him Jerky the Turkey.
He does a little disco dance, and the girlies just love him, eh?
Oh, yeah. He does this weird-ass freaking up-tail, down-tail, stompy thing, and the hens all line up in front of him. It's ridiculous.
I think we could learn a thing or two from Mr. Jerky. I've got a picture of your eggs here if you want to walk us through the different types of eggs.
Sure.
This is a beautiful picture.
Yes.
Okay, so unfortunately, there are no blue eggs in there because that was taken after the mink killed everything off. So in the dark browns are copper Morans or black copper Morans, another heritage breed. The pale olivey green ones are an olive egger versus an Easter egger, which gives pale blue eggs. And then there are some buff beige brown colors are just your standard Rhode Island reds, good old heritage breeds, tough, cold hardy, don't get much parasites. The newer pictures, let me see if I can throw one of those at you now that we've just got pictures of lately. They have actually, we've started to get some blue and green eggs back again. Really blue and green eggs. I don't know if I've got any pictures of them. But they are almost iridescent blue again. And I'm very, very grateful. So I'll send a picture of the Morans, if it'll let me. So that's a Moran egg. They can go almost black chocolate brown. I haven't quite got the brown as dark as it can go yet, but we're working on those genetics. I select the darkest of the brown eggs each year to hatch further. So I just popped the Moran eggs towards you on the chat. And
That's amazing.
yeah, they are quite different. We've finally got one of our hens laying camouflage green eggs again. It's freaking great. You really have to look for them in the grass, man. She hides them so damn well. I don't know if this has got any of the blue in it. No, that's greens and browns. I'll send that one as well.
Okay, here's the Moran eggs that you mentioned.
These particular ones coming at you are a combination of Easter egger and olive egger, your standard Moran, and just a standard white chicken. So I got those as well. People go, I'm trying to find my Easter egg color basket. I had a picture of one where it had all the Easter egg colors, and I mean blues in them as well. And it's just genetic, right? You mix this color with that color, with this turkey, with this tom, with this rooster, with this hen, and you get out the mixes. So all eggs are white, except blue eggs, which are blue all the way through. And the way you can tell that is by looking at the inside of the egg. So your inside of your egg is white or it's blue. So how do you get browns and greens and light blues and buffs after that? Because that last picture I just sent you now has those in them. So your layer on the outside, so your hen lays in the process, she puts down the yolk, and then she puts down the albumin, and then she lays the sac around it, and then she deposits the calcium, which is white, around that. And then the very last thing she does before she lays is that she puts a color coating on it. And that can be white, which is nothing, or a light brown, which is a blood-based color. So they actually use their blood in the process to make that. So the oxidized brown of the blood. And then a green layer will be a chicken that has a blue base and then uses blood, right? And then mixes that in. And then the olive egg will be a green egg that uses the blood layer as well, and then mixes that in. And then they end up with those different colors in the last picture I just sent you. So
just for clarity, the albumin just means the egg white. That's all.
The white. Yeah. So I think I even have a picture somewhere of the whole process, how that goes on, because I managed to pull an intact string out of a hen one day when I was doing a process No, it's not that one. That one's not going to show up. But this
Sending
one
you
will.
a couple pictures of eggs in the middle of the transformation between going from one color to the other as well.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yes,
So then
it's
I sent 2 more on how those get laid down, a whole box of multicolors, and then how the egg actually goes to. So a soft shell egg is where they don't finish laying all the calcium, and you've got the top ones are ducks with the circles on them. That's the air cell. So the top left side are duck eggs. So that's the air cell on them. So I know how big the air cell is as it grows and as it's incubated. It'll use up the albumin, and the air cell will grow larger. And there's a specific rate you're looking for to see if they're growing properly when you do the candling with the light. So. And there's my darkest 3 eggs I'd ever got, and I hatched those. And then there's blues and greens on the right-hand side, and duck eggs on the top. And I get both blue duck eggs, which I throw back to the mallard, and white duck eggs, which are your standard duck egg. Because I'm running ducks that are ruins, and then I'm running the French heavy breed. Oh, good lord. Brains falling out my tush again.
Because we're on the topic of colored foods, I know this is a little off of the meat products, but this is the same person who had those chickens, my cousin in BC. She grew some really cool corn. So I'm gonna send that picture as well. Corn.
Oh, she grew the multicolored corn, the jeweled corn.
Yes.
That's heritage stuff. Thank you. That's heritage stuff. It's got none of this stupid bloody chemicals in it, and that is hard to find corn that's jeweled corn. Oh my god!
As a shameless plug, she's out of Kamloops. Her farm is called Crazy 8 Acres, like the crazy, right? And there's a whole herd of the family, and they just went all natural. They're beautiful, beautiful people. They're amazing. They're amazing farm. You can go there, you can have some of their food, you can sit down, chill out. They'll make baskets with all their stuff for you. It's amazing. I love it. I love what she's doing. I wish I could do something like that myself.
Boomer, go onto the chat and just post the name of the farm. Put any links up if you can there.
Yeah, sure.
Our farm is called Herding Cats Homestead. Because it's chaotic.
You
ever tried to herd cats? You ever tried to herd cats? You ever seen the YouTube video on herding cats?
Yeah, I heard one cat.
Okay, so here's Boomer's corn here if you want to take a look.
Yeah, I think it's the jeweled corn if I'm guessing correctly. Yeah, that's jeweled corn. Holy God, she found jeweled corn. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is such heritage stuff. It's one of the rarest corns available. The cobs are much smaller. The corn kernels are smaller. It dries out incredibly well. It makes amazing cornmeal. And it's got none of the stupid chemicals in it. Holy God. That's good stuff.
Yeah, she really impresses me, like with some of the stuff that she has grown. The pumpkins, unreal. Just absolutely unreal big pumpkins.
Yeah, we cheat. We use duck manure. They love it. They grow like nobody's business.
Yeah, when you have all that, it's self-revolving. It's.
I've got a never-ending supply of poo. It's great. Food goes in the one end and manure comes out the other. It's freaking fantastic.
So, regarding ducks, do they have a similar habitat to chickens, or do they prefer more wetlands?
They prefer more wet, and I have a whole habitat I've made down the side of the enclosure for them, where they have a pond that I've been working on for the last 3 years now, and it's almost at completion. And it runs from the swamp this year. It'll have its own water supply from the swamp, and it'll run the water into their habitat and down the side. And away down the other side of the driveway, which will then be used to water my hops plant. So I also grow hops. Yeah.
Do you find that ducks are more expensive to raise than chickens, or are they pretty similar?
Cheaper, as long as you watch how much they eat, because they're pigs.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, they'll eat more than chickens will. Yeah,
there's a serious lack of ducks out here on the prairies, at least as far as farms are concerned. And duck just is more expensive to buy at like your butcher, like from the Hutter Eggs, for example, than chicken. Which I mean, according to what you're saying, just seems like a real shame because more people should be eating duck or goose.
Yeah. They grow quicker. They got a shorter cycle. They're better moms. They're easier to train. They're not as flighty. But they do need a water source, a constant water source. So that does make things a little more difficult. If you want them healthy, they need a constant water source. If you want high fertility, you need a constant water source.
Well, we have a decent amount of rivers here in Alberta, so you'd think somebody would take the initiative to raise ducks.
Shit. I didn't even see that. You're funny.
Okay.
Sorry. Juice posted it before I did, and I didn't even see it. So, I'm just slow.
I just wanted to pull up the picture here of the development cycle of an egg. So maybe you could explain that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
Okay. So at the top is the ovary. And ducks, like humans, like pigs, like animals, have a set number of ovum when they're born, right? And then they will go through a cycle, and every day to 2 days, depending upon the duck breed, they will produce a little pop at the top left, the first little one that comes out, and that's the yolk. And then it grows as it travels down, and at some point before you see the soft shell, so you've got the egg with the shell on it, the brown at the bottom, that's the soft shell. The fertilization occurs at the one just before that, right? If the hen, allows the drake to fertilize her, because hens are sneaky. They can twist and evert their internals and actually remove sperm if they don't like the drake and he was too vicious, which I didn't know until a while ago. Oh, and male ducks have penises. It's foul. They run around with the damn things hanging out.
Yeah, I've read that ducks have corkscrew-shaped penises.
They do. Yes, this is correct. So they can wind it in and stay hooked in long enough to deposit, otherwise the hen will kick him off, right? So once the fertilization has occurred before the soft shell, they very quickly deposit the albumin, and then very quickly deposit the skin around that albumin, the layer that you peel off when you shell an egg, and then start the process, which takes about 3 days to lay the shell on, 1 to 3 days to lay the shell on. Again, duck breed specific. Once the shell is laid on, then they put the color on, and then the very last thing they do before they lay it is they put on an antibiotic, antiseptic film layer of fluid as it comes out, so that the egg doesn't get infected, because the egg is actually porous, right? The shell. And you can see that if you watch an egg being laid, because it comes out wet, and with the heat from the internals, it blooms and dries and goes shiny. It's really cool to watch. And yes, I have watched a duck's butt.
We got into that on our first episode when we were talking poultry. So eggs have like that chicken shit coating on them that supposedly allows them to be stored at room temperature for months if you don't take it off. And as soon as you wash it, of course, you have to refrigerate it.
Yep.
So that's what you're saying. That's the antibiotic coating that comes out wet and dries.
Yep. Absolutely. That's it.
Yeah, a lot of people I know actually don't wash their eggs. They just keep them.
If I am going to be hatching eggs, I do not wash them. I handle them as gently as I can with as little contact as I can, and I leave them alone, and I will collect eggs for the 7 to 10 days that I'm collecting eggs. And then before I put them in the incubator, I've made sure the incubator for the last 2 days is up to temperature and up to humidity that I'm going to be incubating at. Then I very gently wash the eggs. I also select for the cleanest eggs. I very gently wash the eggs, and then I dip them in a solution of 1-to-1 water to gold Listerine. So, and I take them and I put them in the incubator wet. And I have yet to have a failure with eggs rotting because I haven't allowed bacteria to be introduced. And you do not want an egg rotting and exploding in the incubator. That is beyond foul.
I have experience with that. So in junior high school, our homeroom class, our teacher had this big, I think it was an ostrich egg, just in the back of the classroom. And, being a curious junior high school student, I decided to poke it with a pencil.
And it exploded?
Yes, it exploded, and there was a foul stench in the school. It happened right before lunch hour, so we all got to go
out. That's beautiful. Yes, exploding eggs. They are something else. You'll never poke a yucky-looking egg again, will you?
Well, maybe I will. I don't know.
I know I won't. I've poked a yucky-looking egg once, and that was sufficient. It was nasty. So I'm sending you the little waterway that I built for my ducks. It has expanded significantly all down a natural drainage area. It's now rocked in, and it's got an overflow pipe, and it's got a willow at the end that absolutely loves the water. So yeah, the ducks do their thing in there. And ducks that mate in water have a higher fertility rate than ducks that mate on the ground. So I've got about a 70% fertility rate in my ducks. I had 100% with my turkeys last year, and I got about an 85% with my chickens.
So the ducks, when they see that hottie on the beach, they just jump on her,
eh? Ducks are a little rapey, yeah. They will do the gang thing, absolutely. Especially the ruins, the greenhead style. Yeah, they're like the mallards. They are a tad rapey and a little bit vicious.
I'd like to chase you off.
Ducks?
Yeah.
No, not my ducks. Mine are all of my livestock is either calm or hand tame. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mess with a wild mallard. Oh, hell no.
No, I was sitting on a beach one day, and it was like a shale cliff edge, so it's a little hard to get down and up. And the ducks just attacked us. They just came like rushing off into us, and we're like, okay, we might have killed one with a rock. That's just a small disclosure. But other than that, it was like, get the hell out of here, because these birds want to attack us. And I'm like, I don't even know if they can bite it. I'm so young. I didn't know. Yeah, they were. They're absolutely. I didn't think of anything of it. I thought, oh, look at these really beautiful birds. Fuck you, birds. Mm-hmm. Fuck you.
Boomer, that's their mating ground, man. They don't want any cock blocks. You got to get out of there.
Yeah. You're gonna fucking
Ducks
do the gang thing on me.
And they twist when they bite, and they have nasty, sharp little edges in their beaks, and their wing edges are hard enough to create bruises on a shin. Yeah, they're vicious little buggers.
Oh, Boomer, just imagine you're at the bar hitting on some hottie, and some duck comes out of nowhere just to fuck everything up. I mean, you're probably just gonna kick the shit out of
it. Yeah, well, I grew up on farms, and I never actually had any kind of bird ever attack me, but that's the one time I remember. And then it was Canadian geese, and I know that we were fucking with their shit because we were on a golf course, and they really didn't want us to be there.
Oh my god.
They come in on this big, it's gorgeous, but they come landing in, and they land right on the greens, and we're like, well, what are you supposed to do? They're like, golf. Like, okay, you get to this like green on this fucking beautiful place, and it's just goose shit. They've got the whole green just covered in goose shit, and they got like these little special things for you to go around cleaning up the goose shit before you take your shot.
2 pounds of shit per goose per day, my man.
And they do not give a fuck about where you are. They just fuck you.
They will eat you. And they cheat when they chase you. They fly and run and fly and hop and run. So you can never escape them.
Yeah, and you try to like do anything. It's like me in that picture of me trying to kick that turkey. It's like, yeah, like I'm with a full swing on freaking kick, because if I get him, he's gonna remember. But if chances of me getting him, he knows. He's like, yeah, poking at you. He's like a little kid trying to find a weakness.
This has been loads of fun. I mean, we've learned so much, and we've seen so many different aspects of farm life. Do any of you have any closing questions you want to ask?
when you moving to Canada and bringing your farm with you?
He's in Canada.
I'm in Ottawa.
Oh, you're in Ottawa?
Yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, I've been here since 1997, citizen since 2002. I'm Canadian, man.
Shit. Oh, that's awesome. So I don't know anything about you. I was the whole first fucking bit of the
first thing I did was I bought myself a shotgun when I could.
Oh boy.
And I still have that Mossberg 930, and she has taken many geese from the sky. A couple of deer, a whole bunch of coyotes, some squirrels. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Juicy, you got anything you want to ask?
No, this has been a great show. It's been really good. I've been listening to lots and getting lots of information, and I think it's been great.
Yeah, you guys are more than welcome to ask me any questions. I'll hand on whatever knowledge I have, or links I have, or downloads I have, and the only way anybody's ever going to remember me is if I share shit and you guys use it down the line, right?
Yeah, hop into the homesteading channel, man. You've got loads of stuff you can share. People just love it.
Yes, absolutely. And
if there was a way for us
my
to
adventures in there as well.
If there was a way for us to do data sharing, I could upload tons of stuff. I have terabytes of downloaded information because I am convinced that they're going to delete anything that has to do with knowledge and homesteading, and they have been. Things are just disappearing. And then I don't trust I don't trust electronics because they can turn it off tomorrow. So in my house, I have a wall 10 feet long, 8 feet tall. That's got nothing that doesn't cover any kind of farming, homesteading, welding, blacksmithing, loading, shooting, hunting, trapping, you name it. I've got books on it.
Beautiful.
Your in-depth description of your aquaponics alone was right off. Like, I asked you a question, you were above and beyond what I asked, and that was incredible.
That's been a 3-year plan now. That's a 3-year plan. It's taken me 3 years and lots of research. I'll share the damn plans with you, man. It's taken me scratching shit together to figure out how to make it work, how to heat the ground, how to heat the earth bank behind, how to keep that as a heat source in the depth of winter, the angles and stuff, and the math and the science. It's just research and research and research and research. And when I build something, I build it once, and it lasts.
Yes.
Well, guys,
that's good.
This has been a great episode, probably our best yet. Casper, we're definitely going to have you back at some point. So thanks again for coming on. And
pleasure.
We're going to throw up the contact screen here, so if you guys ever want to send us anything, Juicy and I both have P.O. boxes you can send us stuff to. And with that, thanks for the episode, guys.
Pleasure. Good night.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.